What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Whatever time you may be watching this with me, I appreciate you tuning in and checking out this video that I have here for you. And what am I focusing on? A couple of theories going through my mind on the correlation between active listening and reading comprehension. And in my theory, I believe that those who are very good readers are also very good active listeners.
What's up, Jit? Like, what you been on? Like,
25, you know. Rappers come here.
Ain't no woody woo, you know what I'm saying?
When the fall, spring, summer, and all, you got a choice, stay in the house or you can hop off the porch. My mom was only 15, lucky she ain't aboard. I'm from the south side of North, but still show love to the north. Talking 280, the number blocks, pennant and cold.
I employ a lot of active listening skills, unbeknownst to me, that fall in line with the literature that a lot of scholars and psychologists recommend you use when you want to be a good active listener. One of the sources of literature that I pulled up and I used for a point of reference was an article and study done by Joseph R. Jenkins of the University of Washington and Lynn S. Futz of Vanderbilt University on the sources of individual differences in reading comprehension and reading fluency. Let's take a look at some of the excerpts from the article. Word level reading skill plays a necessary and central role in reading ability and its development, representing the major determinant of reading ability in the elementary grades. Go, Hoover and Patterson, 1996. Jewell, 1988. Stanovich, 1991. Skill word reading provides the reader with the raw materials for subsequent comprehension processing. Together with listening comprehension, word reading skill accounts for nearly all of the reliable variance in reading ability, and individual differences in word recognition explain significant variance in reading ability, even after controlling for listening comprehension. Curtis, 1980, Hoover and Go, 1990. Indeed, problems in acquiring word level reading are the principal difficulties faced by children who encounter reading problems in the primary grades. Snow, Burns, and Griffin, 1998. At around the age of 4 years old, my mother, who is an educator herself, now who has her PhD in divinity and a master's in early childhood education, so she is an educator, as I previously mentioned, she instilled in me at around the age of 4 a thirst for knowledge, so to speak, and seeking out more information, or to go deeper than the surface level of the information that you're given. And how she did that was instilling in me a joy for reading, improving my vocabulary through reading, and improving my reading comprehension by absorbing many different reading materials. Through the years, over the course of time, I've gained a lot of knowledge, may have forgotten a lot, but it seemed to greatly benefit me in subjects in school where reading was the primary focus. Ergo, or for instance, history, sciences, some of the science courses, social studies, and even partially, you'd say math. Moreover, at the age of 4, my mother was able to get me proficient enough to read on my own, and she used to take me to the library regularly. I loved it. And now, even to this day, 2021 that we're currently speaking of, I just had a conversation with my mother asking her what she's up to, what she's doing with her day to day. And she said that she's encouraging herself to read one book every week. I find this to be amazing and even somewhat inspiring, even in myself. And so if she's doing one, I may have to go find myself reading 2 a week, but let's see how that works out. But even in this, as some people may feel a little bit different about it. I know there's some Kindle book readers, also reading formats, what they call those ebooks that you could read on your phone or your, tablet devices. I still find that to be feasible because the information, whether it be in written form or there on your tablet or on a screen, it still is the same information, whether whichever format that you receive it in. But there are those who are purists to the handwritten form of reading and would prefer to have a book in their hand. I can understand to some degree the well, to use a more simpler term, the affection for having that physical piece of paper in your hand with the written word on it for you to absorb the information. And even still to this day, I think that is one of the more enjoyable forms of reading. It is noted that poor readers are slower at accessing word meaning from memory and less skilled at recognizing words and deriving phonology from print. New information puts poor readers at a disadvantage when they cannot find from long-term memory the information because of lack of background knowledge of the topic being read. An article written by Simon Garrard from the University of Glasgow, UK, and Meredith Daneman, University of Toronto, Canada, goes into the psychology of reading. An excerpt from this psychology of reading goes as such. Clyde did not want to arouse suspicion, so he sat down in the waiting room with his hand over his holster and smiled politely at the other occupants of the room. He thumbed deliberately through the heaps of reading matter on the table until he spotted the latest Newsweek. He opened the magazine and then carefully counted the number of bullets it held, waiting to be fired. When the office door opened, Clyde was poised and ready. The magazine was full. I took a lot of joy in researching the deeper meanings of the psychology of active listening and reading comprehension. And I truly believe that this could be a topic that can be gone through more in depth in even several different parts. Stay tuned and we'll find out if I decide to continue on to further dissect the inner workings of reading comprehension in comparison to active listening. To read further on in the text, we see here it says, regardless of the extent to which skilled readers engage in pre-lexical phonological recoding, at least some of the inner speech of a skilled reader must be generated after lexical access, because there is no way to know the appropriate stress and intonation patterns without first interpreting the sentence at several levels, such as determining what the individual words mean and doing at least some preliminary analysis of how the words are semantically and syntactically related to one another. The second view of phonological recoding is that phonological codes are generated after lexical access to help the reader to retain information in working memory, temporary memory, long enough for the higher level semantic integration to occur. During reading, sequences of words must be held in a temporary storage buffer while the comprehension process integrates them into a meaningful conceptual structure that can be stored in a more permanent memory. For example, when first encountering the Clyde passage, most readers probably initially interpreted the word magazine to mean reading periodical, because this is the meaning that was strongly primed by the preceding context. He spotted the latest Newsweek. However, this meaning is inconsistent with the subsequent text, the number of bullets it held waiting to be fired, and a resolution of the apparent inconsistency requires a reinterpretation of magazine to mean bullet chamber. There are a lot of barriers for some people who don't possess the necessary skills for decent or good reading comprehension. Sometimes it comes from their grade school upbringing and their base knowledge already of the English language and the mastery of vocabulary. But one thing that I found, or I've heard that Malcolm X did, that I find to be very beneficial, was that he tried to learn several words every day from reading them through the dictionary. So improving your understanding of how words work and the meaning of several different words can increase your base knowledge of the English vocabulary. Now, the phonetics of the word is also important. So understanding how these words are pronounced properly also increases your ability to use them confidently. And so therefore, now that we're in the day and age that we're in, and you can easily Google search a word and also get the phonetics behind it, I would suggest that everybody not necessarily try to do the same thing that Malcolm X does, but a word that you use frequently, try to find another word for it for a synonym for the word that you're using and see if it would be helpful to improve your vocabulary. Garrard and Damon summarization of the article is as follows. Reading is a complex skill, and particularly so with alphabetic written languages such as English. Although skilled readers can process as many as 6 words a second, phonological recoding imposes an upper limit on reading rate. Even skilled readers fixate almost all the words in a text and can attend to only one word at a time. Yet each word is identified rapidly, and in most cases, its meaning is integrated immediately in the meaning of the passage as a whole. Since reading is such a complex skill for which we have to receive instruction, it is perhaps not surprising that there are striking individual differences in reading ability. Individual differences arise both within the normal range of readers and in relation to those with specific disabilities such as dyslexia. In one field of reasoning, it is said, the major goal of reading comprehension is to help students develop the knowledge, skills, and strategies they must possess to become proficient and independent readers who read with meaning. While reading, a student is expected to simultaneously mentally interact and construct meaning from the text. The difficulty occurs when there is an inability to grasp the meaning of words, phrases, and paragraphs. Signs of reading difficulty include problems with letter and word recognition, understanding words and ideas. And in that saying right there, understanding words and ideas is one thing that I think can tie into a problem with some poor active listening skills. This excerpt coming from understood.org says there are 6 essential skills needed for reading comprehension and tips on what can help kids improve this skill. A few things that stand out from the 6 skills that it said is needed, I see as definitely beneficial for better active listening skills. Working memory and attention, vocabulary, fluency, sentence structure and cohesion, reasoning and background knowledge. That's 5 out of the 6. And those 5 out of the 6 have good correlation to good communication skills when dealing with others, whether it be face to face, on the phone, or even in a panel discussion. If the person has fluency in the English language, they will have a better understanding of what is being said and being able to decode or decipher what their counterpart is saying to them. But you must have a willing and open listening ear to hear what is being said. If the person you're speaking with may not be on the same level conversationally as you, their sentence structure may be loose and very, very free flowing. You still have to gain some type of cohesion from what they're saying to you and to formulate, hopefully, a decisive idea of what is being conveyed. You must give good attention to the speaker so as you can pinpoint on prior points made by that person that you can then better engage with them, furthering the conversation. If you have a good vocabulary, no matter the words that they may use, if you have a decent working vocabulary, you can get a base understanding of what is being said, even if they use words that you may not be familiar with. Again, going back to Malcolm X improving his vocabulary by reading the dictionary. It is an amazing tool to help you have, I believe, more fruitful conversations with other people in debate and discussion. I found a video from a professor at Long Beach City College on how to improve your listening skills. It was an amazing video and was a lot of great points given and solutions to improve your listening skills.
Here's what I want to say to begin with. Whenever students see the title of this workshop, Improving Your Listening Skills, I get some really interesting responses from people. People look at me and they say, "You're going to teach us how to listen?" And I said, "Well, actually, yes." And people say, "Well, I already know how to do that. I've been doing that all my life." And hearing and listening are not the same thing at all. And most people, as I said, are really not good at it. And we're going to talk about that to start with. But here's my little quick introduction to this whole thing. And that is, I talk to students really often. And I don't know if this is going to sound familiar to you, but I talk to students and I go up to one and I say, "Do you ever have a hard time concentrating when somebody's talking to you?" And here's their answer. "Wait, what?" And they, "Okay, good. You come to me with me to the workshop." People's ability to concentrate is kind of scary. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with problems. Don't want to think about those too much, but there are a lot of reasons why people have a hard time concentrating. We're going to talk about 3 of them really fast, and then we're going to focus on solutions. It's always nice when there are twice as many solutions as problems. Too bad life isn't quite like that, but anyway, that's sort of encouraging. So which one of these 3 are you guilty of the most often? In other words, it's your personal weakness. And one thing I know for sure, this might surprise you, I know, even though I don't know anybody in here really, I know that all of you suffer from all 3 of these. And how can I know that? It's because you're a human being. You'll understand as I go through them, okay? So the first one, which is a major problem for a lot of people, is what's usually referred to as pseudo listening. Okay, and what does pseudo mean? Yeah, it means false. Second one is something that a lot of students misunderstand when I write this down, but I want to try to give you a little example of this too. It's called selective listening. Okay, now, selective listening usually means you listen to what you want to hear, you tune out the rest, right? That's sometimes a problem, but that's not exactly what I mean by this. What I mean by this is this word, and that is distractions. Okay, so the question for you is, how easily are you distracted? And as a result, you don't listen carefully to the person talking to you. This could be in a conversation, this could be in a classroom. And again, out of these 2, probably one of them sounds a little more common to you than the other. But the third one is major problem for at least some people. And this has 2 meanings too, including one that I don't mean, so I want to make sure I've got this, and that's critical listening. Okay. There is a type of critical listening that's actually good. That's when you listen to something like a sales pitch and you don't automatically believe it, but you analyze it critically. That's a good thing, but that's not this. What I mean by this, and this might help you to remember it, is this, and that is to write another word that comes from the same one, which is the word criticize. So what that means is you are thinking something about the person talking to you, whether it's in a conversation or a class, and it's not something really that just distracts you, it's something that bothers you a lot. And as a result, you end up spending all your time focusing on that instead of listening to what the person is saying.
One of the points that he brought up when it came to critical listening, I find that usually when we're interacting or speaking with people that we don't have a common interest with, we listen generally, critically, or with the intention of winning in the conversation instead of actively listening or listening intently to what is being said so that it can better help formulate our own counterpoint if we feel that we're in the right on what we're speaking on, if we're speaking from a base of knowledge. But even if the person is more knowledgeable than you on the topic that they're speaking, you still can contribute something very useful to the conversation if you're listening, you're paying attention, and you're not passing judgment or giving your own opinions on the topic being given, but more so speaking from a place of sincerity, asking honest questions, and engaging the speaker on the topic at hand after they have finished speaking. Given to us from verywellminded.com, they have tips for practicing active listening. To paraphrase what has been said, rather than offering unsolicited advice or opinions, don't interrupt while the other person is speaking, and watch nonverbal behavior to pick up on hidden meaning in addition to listening to what is said. While other nonverbal cues include nuances of the voice, tone, and pitch. Another tip for improving nonverbal communication is also to ask questions. And some open-ended questions would be, well, how, why, where? I did see from another article in leading questions or asking questions to be more engaged with the speaker. They used one question, for instance. So what you're saying is, or what I'm hearing you say is, but I do find that even though it is a decent line of questioning, I find that to be somewhat combative, especially if the person you're speaking to already is not listening intently or listening genuinely to what you have to say. So there's many different correlations that I can see between a person who has great reading comprehension and good listening skills. But a few that does stand out to me, an immediate tie together. A good working vocabulary helps you in conversation and also understanding words written on a page and their meaning. So, understanding good grammar and sentence construction in conversation can help you convey your message, or to find a more easier word, to pass your message on to the listener so that they can understand what you're saying in the most effective way. To me, I feel even though you may have an amazing vocabulary, you still have to treat your entire audience as if they may not know everything that you do. So give your message in the most simplest of terms that you can so that all can feel included and you can be understood. Know the room. Good working background knowledge on the topic that you want to speak on can help you when speaking to others who know more about the topic than you. And if it is a topic that you know absolutely nothing on, that's also all right. This is where the part where you do much more listening and only engaging with the intent of potentially learning something new or asking questions that can help the conversation along, and you can contribute something when a point is made that you have some form of reference to. And of course, again, attention. Giving the person time to speak so they can get their point out. Some people have a tendency to go on long tangents and rambling, but that is also for some people who may not be the best socializers or public speakers, a way of them working through their thoughts to get to the point. We all work and operate differently when it comes to these things, but both of those skills, reading and listening, are two skills that can be greatly improved and also, in my opinion, greatly improve your intelligence. Quote. I'm so glad everyone took the time to hear my personal ramblings. And as I said before, this may be something that I go into much more depth in, because the topic in itself, as I went to do some research, should have known there was so much literature, so many studies, and so many articles written on this topic. So we can possibly go into much more depth about it. I enjoy theorizing on many different topics and seeing how two things can relate that we may not necessarily put together. But what I did come across through the research of this topic is that if you're interested in the field of clinical psychology, Having those two skills is of the utmost importance to help you along in your career. Both of those two things tie in with the interpersonal skills needed for the people that you're going to communicate with, and also the research that you need to do and understanding the material so you can better diagnose and help serve the community at large. Just a little bit more information for those who may be interested in that field, but if you're looking to be a clinical psychologist, I'm pretty sure you're already smarter than the whip already. I thank y'all again for tuning in with me. Until next time, I'm out, bitch.
That boy is good.